It's so wonderful to be here. I have prepared remarks, but I'm just feeling overwhelmed by all the love in the room today and thinking about, I've been here 20 years. I started at B'nai Tikva 20 years ago and had our first High Holy Days right here. And my oldest, Ezra, is here. He's about to be 19, and he ran up and down these steps. I was pregnant with one of my kids here. 2 of them were newborns. It's just been amazing to be in community with you all over all this time. And I think we should do another sermon series about God. Our relationship with God, your relationship with God, so fascinating. Anyway, thank you for having me. It has been, as you are all aware, a vulnerable and heartbreaking year in the Jewish community, and of course in the human community as well. And having friends and allies like you here at St. Matthew has been immensely comforting. It's also very fitting that I'm speaking today because of where we are in the Jewish calendar right now. We're in a period that's known as the Omer, which is the tender time between Passover, when we remember the Exodus from Egypt, and the holiday of Shavuot, when we remember receiving the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, from Moses on top of Mount Sinai. This period marks our passage from freedom to revelation. We mark these 49 days between the two holidays by counting them every day, and today is day 47. The Omer period is just about to end on Tuesday night when we'll celebrate receiving God's Torah. It's also observed as a mourning period when people generally don't get married or have big parties or even shave or cut their hair for this entire period, because it's said that some of the worst atrocities of the Jewish people happened historically in these 7 weeks. I've not ever really felt the pull of grief or mourning of this period until this year, when the whole Jewish world feels like it's almost frozen in a state of fear and anticipation. So your invitation to offer some words about shalom, to share some of my beautiful tradition with you, could not have come at a more important time for my own heart and soul. Thank you, Rustin. I am so grateful for your friendship. Ask any Jewish kid to define shalom for you, and they will say without skipping a beat, it means hello, goodbye, and peace. While true, this definition leaves out layers upon layers of depth that I want to explore with you today. I'm going to take you on a little journey through our tradition, mystical texts, a little grammar, biblical sources, some contemporary, to fill in the definition of a word that is deceptively simple, but is actually incredibly deep. To begin, we need to go way, way back to the creation of the world as we see it from a Jewish mystical perspective. According to our mystics, at the beginning of time, God's presence filled the entire universe. When God decided to bring this world into being to make room for the creation of us, God first had to contract God's own infinite self in order to be room, for there to be room for humanity. This is a process we call tzimtzum, or holy contraction. After making space for us, God said those famous words from Genesis 1:3, "Let there be light," at which point a great, magnificent light filled the darkness, and 10 holy vessels came forth, each filled with this primordial light. God then sent those vessels like a fleet of ships, each carrying its cargo of light across the world. Had they arrived intact, the world would have been perfect. But the vessels were too fragile to contain such a powerful divine light. They broke open, and all the holy sparks were scattered like sand, like seeds, like stars. This is why we were created according to our mystical ancestors, to gather the sparks, no matter where they are hidden, and restore the broken vessels of God's light. This process is called tikkun olam, repairing the world. Tikkun olam is the foundation of Judaism, and it's ultimately the purpose of every Jewish person, whether they know it or not. Because if and when the day comes that the world is repaired, the world will return to its original state of wholeness, and there will be peace, shalom, throughout the world. The Jewish soul is defined by a yearning for this peace. However, shalom has a much more nuanced and complex meaning than just peace. Shalom appears 237 times in the Bible in various meanings. In most references, it means tranquility, security, peace, and well-being, wonderful qualities to aspire to for all of us. It also means health, welfare, completeness, and safety. Scholars disagree as to the root of the word. And to understand this, I need to take a little bit of a nerdy turn. Anyone who knows me from my congregation knows I'm a total nerd on everything that has to do with liturgy or grammar or anything Jewish, really. And explain a little bit about the beautiful Hebrew language. The Hebrew alphabet is made up of 22 consonants, which are combined from right to left in order to create words. Much like Arabic, vowels in Hebrew are written as symbols above and below the consonants almost incidentally, never taken into consideration when spelling a word in Hebrew. The Torah, which contains the 5 books of Moses, is written entirely without vowels. The result of having no vowels woven into words is that every Hebrew word can be broken down into a 3-consonant root, which in the case of the word shalom is the letters shin, sh, lamed, l, and mem, So the sounds are just shalom without the vowels. And add the vowels, it's shalom. What makes this system so magnificent is that you can take the same root, add different vowels, and have a new meaning appear. For example, the word for compassion or mercy in Hebrew, rachamim, has the 3-letter root resh, chet, mem. That same root, written with different vowels, also means womb. The root for compassion and womb are one and the same. Beautiful, right? Some claim that the root of the word shalom is related to the Aramaic verb shlah, meaning quiet or to be at ease or tranquil. Other scholars connect shalom with the verb shalem or shlemut, meaning complete, or as Rustin said, whole. This is the definition for shalom that resonates most deeply within me and where I'd like to focus our attention today, because peace, in my mind, cannot be achieved if people are not whole. I recently heard a story about George Orwell in the Spanish Civil War, in which he recounts being tasked with shooting at any German soldiers who crossed the field in front of him. We were still trying to nerve ourselves to make a dash for it, he writes, when there was an uproar and a blowing of whistles in the German trench. Some of our airplanes were coming over. At this moment, a man, presumably carrying a message to an officer, jumped out of the trench and ran along the top of the parapet in full view. He was half-dressed and was holding up his trousers with both hands as he ran. I refrained from shooting at him, Orwell says. It is true that I'm a poor shot and unlikely to hit a running man at 100 yards. And also that I was thinking chiefly about getting back to our trench. Still, I did not shoot partly because of that detail about the trousers. I had come here to shoot at fascists, but a man who has no belt and is holding up his trousers isn't a fascist. He's a visibly fellow creature, similar to yourself, and you just don't feel like shooting at him. One man's life was saved that day, one shard of the shattered vessel restored, because instead of seeing an enemy in that moment, George Orwell saw a human being, just like himself. Shalom, the ability to see the whole complexity of another person, even an enemy, and choose their life over the job you are meant to do. Peace, according to Rabbi Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory, involves a profound crisis of identity because it requires me to relinquish my certainty that my perspective is right and yours is wrong. It requires compromise and empathy and the willingness to shatter our certainty that there is only one way to resolve a conflict, to pray, to love, or even to live, even if you are absolutely certain that yours is the right way. Peace demands that you release control, that you step outside your box and look at things from another person's perspective. That kind of shalom is the wholeness that was cultivated in 2016 when Amina Amdeen, a Muslim woman, and Joseph Weidenecht, a Trump supporter, both showed up to an anti-Trump rally in Austin, Texas. Amina, in her hijab, was there to protest the election, and Joseph, one of the counter-protesters, was wearing a Make America Great Again hat and holding a sign that said, "Proud to be deplorable." At one point, Joseph heard the click of a lighter and turned around to see 3 people trying to light his shirt on fire. Someone then pulled off his hat, which sparked an unexpected reaction within Amina. "Something kind of snapped inside of me," she said, "because I wear a Muslim hijab. I've been in situations where people have tried to snatch it off my head." She felt herself rushing to defend Joseph, screaming at the protesters to leave him alone. She could not tolerate someone doing that to Joseph, no matter what sign he was holding or what his hat said. Her instinct was empathy. It was hearing God in the voice of this stranger, regardless of how much they disagreed with one another. That moment of empathy connected them forever because Amina and Joseph were reminded in that human exchange that we are enlarged by people who are different from us, not diminished. If only we spend time with people with whom we agree, we will lose the ability to have empathy and hope. In the world today, the horribly fractured world, depends entirely on us not losing our empathy. Empathy gives clear vision and a desire to see the wholeness of the person standing in front of us with eyes and hearts filled with grace. Grace. Chen in Hebrew. It was God's grace that moved through Amina and Joseph that day, unpredictable and beautiful grace that turned an angry protest into a moment of human connection and healing. They forgave one another and changed the course of history, not just for themselves, but for the witnesses to that moment as well, and for their friends and family and for strangers like me who heard their story. Could there be a better definition of shalom than a Trump supporter and a Muslim anti-Trump activist finding a way to seeing the grace of God within each other? That, to me, is the essence of shalom, the willingness to risk it all in the service of the wholeness of another human being, in the service of healing the world one beautiful, holy spark at a time. It is in this way that I think of shalom as radical, audacious even, being vulnerable enough to fight for a world in which all people can be seen and respected. Shalom is not soft and it is not easy. It is courageous and it requires tremendous strength. Shalom is the members of Standing Together, an organization of Jews and Muslims, Israelis and Palestinians who are working towards a just and shared future for Israel and Palestine. These brave activists are horrified at how we are responding to the Israel-Hamas war here in the US, claiming that there is one right side and one wrong side, and that peace can only be achieved when one side wins. It is these mighty warriors who showed up a few weeks ago at the angry protests on the UCLA campus, and over the shouts of, "You are all Hamas" on one side, and "You should have been at Kfar Aza on October 7th" on the other, began to chant, "In Gaza, in Tel Aviv, all children deserve to live. In Gaza, in Tel Aviv, all children deserve to live." They refuse to accept that hating one another is the only way. These young people were forced to express what many adults cannot, that we can and must hold space for one another even when we passionately disagree, and that it is in the space between us that it is possible to find common ground and even, please God, blessing. They're doing something even harder than raising weapons. They're lifting their eyes and daring to imagine a world where peace and shared homeland is the way. They are seeing the image of God in the face of the other. If that is not shalom, I do not know what is. Those warriors are healing the world one tiny shard, one brave step at a time. Here's the thing. If you want to understand what shalom is, you must understand that the entire Jewish enterprise is based on the belief that we are in a covenantal relationship with God, which depends on effort on both of our parts. We must commit to fixing the world as much as we can, as long as we have breath in our bodies, and God, in turn, will meet us there. It is this covenant that's being described in a short homily from the 8th century in a text called Pesikta Rabbati. A ruler had a child who had gone astray on a journey of 100 days. The child's friend said, "Return to your parent." The child said, "I cannot." Then the ruler sent a message to the child saying, "Return as far as you can, and I will come the rest of the way to you." In a similar way, God says, "Return to me, and I will return to you." Gather my shards of divine light, God says. Do your part in bringing peace and wholeness to the world, and I too will join you there. This is why it would be nearly impossible to count the number of times that the word shalom is found in our liturgy, because it is a concept that is so central to what it means to be a Jew. It is woven so completely throughout our prayers that we cannot pray without this exact supplication on our lips. In the evening, when we end our private prayers to God with Shalom Rav, a great peace, asking God to grant abundant peace over Israel, your people forever, for you are the God of peace. In the morning, it seems Shalom, please place your peace upon us. When we go to sleep, we recite Hashkivenu, which asks God to spread a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace across the world. On Friday evening, as Shabbat begins, we sing Shalom Aleichem, a song and prayer welcoming angels of peace to keep us company during our Sabbath. Even Shabbat itself is a wild and crazy belief in peace, belief in the world as it should be instead of the world as it is, when we greet each other with Shabbat Shalom, a Sabbath of peace and wholeness to you. When someone we love has died, we recite Mourner's Kaddish, which ends not with a prayer for their soul or for our own ability to manage our grief, but with Oseh Shalom, a supplication for God to bring peace down onto all the inhabitants of the earth. When we bless babies or children or wedding couples, we sing the words of the priestly benediction from Numbers 6, which says, "May God bless you and protect you. May God deal kindly and graciously with you. May God's favor wash over you and grant you shalom, peace." Our greatest wish for ourselves and for humanity is peace, wholeness, and freedom. And our task, as we see it, is to participate with every fiber of our being in bringing that possibility into this world. There is no other way for us to understand but that the healing of the world is in our messy hands, and that God is right there with us in the muck. It is written in one of our foundational texts, Pirkei Avot, or the teachings of our fathers, that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel used to say, on 3 things does the world stand: on justice, on truth, and on peace. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol, ve'al kol, ve'al kol, Yisrael. Ve'al kol, ve'al kol, ve'al kol, Yoshvei Tevel. Ve'yimeru amen, ve'yimeru amen. We ask for peace on earth, and we say amen. Ve'yimeru amen, ve'yimeru amen. We raise our voice as one, and we say amen. Ken Yehi Ratzon, so may it be God's will. Thank you.